If I have to use my gun to defend, that's the very last thing I want to do. But if I do have to do it, I want to know and be confident in my skills and abilities. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's Neil out here on the Widener Range, hanging out today on a beautiful fall day while I've still got some good weather. I want to get some shooting in, and I want to bring you along for some of the work I'm doing towards improving for a Gabe White class that I'm getting ready to take.
Download the Asp Unlimited app for all the content you love from active self-protection and more with no interference from YouTube. No ads, no age gates, exclusive videos, seminars, classes, and more on iOS, Android, Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, and Android TV. Hit the link in the description or download Asp Unlimited from your app store today.
So if you've been watching for a couple of weeks or a couple of days, I don't know what order these will play in, you know that I've got a 2025 class on the books or on my schedule to go take a Gabe White class. And Gabe White's one of my favorite instructors. I've explained this in other videos, so if you don't know who he is, Google the guy. He's an incredible human being. He's an incredible shooter, and he's a great instructor. A ton of fun to take a class from. And there's some competition stuff in the class as far as competing against yourself. There is some man-on-man competitions, shooting against the others in the class, which is super fun, especially when you go there with your best friends and your family, and you get to take runs with against your wife or your best friend. Or I've done this with Natalie has kind of taken this with me too. So it's a fun time to do that. But for me, the competition is more internal. Can I be better at this than I was last time? Last time I wasn't really impressed with my results. I was not happy with how I shot. And then I think I got disappointed on day one, and I carried a lot of that today too. Wasn't able to let it go mentally. So I'm working through that. So thanks, this is my therapy, let's say, range time therapy. A lot of people will say that. There's a combination of 4 different drills that you do over the 2 days for score. I've shot the first one is the Bill drill, which is draw and fire 6 to the A zone, the big A zone. There's the immediate incapacitation. That is draw and fire 2 to the head box. These are all done at 7 yards and on time. Today, what I'm going to do is work on, I'm just going to show you some people call it the Mozambique, some call it the failure to stop drill. But what it is you're going to draw and fire 2 to the big A zone and then transition up and 1 to the head box. It's a fun drill because you've got 2 sets of recoil to deal with a transition in the middle. You can ride that recoil right up, but it's just a fun drill, and you've got to do it pretty quick to pass. In Gabe's class. My ultimate goal here in the shooting that I'm doing today is that I'm creating a dry fire plan that I'm going to use throughout the colder months here when this place is under a foot of snow, that I can sit in the comfort of my own home and do some dry fire that's going to help me improve down here. Then when I get to the range, I can test that. This is a kind of a tried and true process for improvement in shooting. So if you want to come along with me, great. I'll be doing another video at the end of this series that will show you all of the dry fire stuff that I'm doing with the Mantis unit, with the Ace unit, with just the naked gun, those kind of things. But for today, I'm just getting a feel for that, having some fun on the range. It's a beautiful day. I wanted to, turn some money into smoke and noise by shooting some ammo. MagTech, I've got some MagTech that I needed to burn up, so I'm having fun with it today. And it's just a beautiful day. All the pheasant hunters are out here in South Dakota. I keep seeing them drive by, and they all slow way down when they hear all the shooting, thinking that I'm shooting a bunch of birds. I don't think there's any birds around here with the shooting that I've done today, but anyway, it's going to be a good time. So failure to stop. Again, if you want to call it the Mozambique, you can call it the Mozambique, depending on who you are and what your background is. Either it's the same thing. And so the gist of it is it comes from a draw, fire 2, and raise up. There's a few different things to consider. There is that, if you've got the rectangular A zone, like on a USPSA, which is what Gabe uses, not what I'm using. You can see I've got a B8. But what some guys will do is they'll draw and they'll try to get that first one into the lower part of the A zone hit, and then just ride the recoil for the second one and maintain your sights inside that main A zone, and then just ride the recoil on up. So it's pop, pop, pop as the gun goes up. depending on your trigger speed and your splits and all of that kind of stuff. And that's all math that you got to figure out on your own. Potentially, what I see a lot of other guys do is they draw and they try to put both shots in the upper third of the A zone, get them both in there real quick, and then it's just less travel time to the head box. So there's different things that you can do, and if you don't go shoot these things, you won't maybe know what works best for you or where you're at. I think the higher end shooters that I know typically shoot at that top part of the A zone and then just ride the recoil up. Guys like me that maybe aren't at the very upper echelon, you know, look at, let's start at the halfway mark and work our way up and those kind of things. But this is stuff that you've got to go to the range and you've got to do a little bit of work on. The Ace VR thing, I've been spending a little bit of time with that, and this drill is in the Ace VR. And you can, again, it's all dry fire stuff. You have everything but recoil, but it may let you, that might be a good tool for you to go explore and see how that thing works. They're not a sponsor of ours. They're friends of ours. Full disclosure, they gave me one so that I would talk, probably so I would talk about it. I wouldn't talk about it if I didn't like it. And so it's a cool tool, and you should give it a try, but it'll help you work on some of this stuff. I'm actually talking to them about potentially getting all of Gabe's stuff in there so that we can have a series in there that is the Gabe White series, so folks can work on it in there. But you can work on it without that. You can work on it with just your gun. The Mantis unit is another great way to use that as well. So lots of different options. So for today, I'm going to shoot this a few times just to show you what it looks like, and then I'm going to talk about how we transition and create a dry fire plan based on what we see on the targets and what we see in our performance. All right, so let me get my ears on, got my eyes. I'm shooting this at about 5 yards, so it's going to be draw, fire 2, raise up, and fire 1 more. So it's a total of 3. Make sure I am loaded and hot. Now, normally I would do this with a timer. Today I'm not doing it with a timer because it's not about the time. It's about the motion, and then I will work on getting it faster later. This is not me pushing it in any way, shape, or form. I just want to get the hits. So you saw the draw was not any too fast. I was thinking about my shoulder to get a good draw, get a good grip on my gun, because I don't do as much dry fire as I should, and none of us do, right? If you do as much dry fire as you should, then you're in a very minute group out there, and you know who you are, right? The rest of us that don't dry fire as much as we'd like, those are the kind of things that we need to focus on. I got 3 really good hits, 2 in the X, and then raised up and had one. You heard my cadence was kind of a bang, 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 with a space in there as I transitioned up. The goal is to get those splits to as close as possible so that you can ride that transition on up. And again, now one thing that if you're using a B8 like this older ass target, our new ones don't have the B8 on this, but if I was drawn to that X, so I'm like, I got to get 2 X's. Now that what that makes me do is I have to transition this much further. I hope you can see this, and maybe we can even zoom in here, but I got 2 shots in the X, but then I had to transition all the way up. That's a little over a foot transition, where this would have been an acceptable hit up here in the 8 ring, and then my transition is a little bit less. So just things to think about as you do this. That's probably why using the right target when you're practicing would be the right way to go, but I have targets that I got to get used up, and I'm going to use them. So I'm going to do that one more time, see if I can go a little bit quicker. It was about the same time. Now, when I'm trying to do that, I think that slowed me down because I was trying to think through the process. So let me do that one more time. There we go. The speed was there, but I threw the second shot. I rode the recoil way too fast, and then even went a little bit left here. So my left hand wasn't in control of my grip. So I went a little high and to the right, just because that's what it is. So let me do that one more time and get a good run. There we go. So that's a good run. I'll take it. I'm happy with that. Now let's start talking about how we do this in dry fire. So let me get an empty gun. I have a bunch of ammo to pick up after today. So here, I got an empty gun here. So in dry fire, what we're gonna do, because we've got multiple shots, I think a lot of people think that dry fire is just simply this. pull the trigger, reset, pull the trigger, reset, pull the trigger. That's not just, that's part of dry fire, and you can do that. But the other things that we can work on in dry fire is follow-up shots. So using the side berm over here with a live trigger, what it's gonna look like, here, let me get up here kind of close, is gonna be a click, smush, smush. And I'm raising the gun up as I go. So I'm click, smush, smush. And I'm just picking random leaves over here on my berm, just as targets to, okay, I'm gonna go here to here to here. And in dry fire, I'm gonna do this just very similar. It's just gonna be a different kind of a target because I'm not gonna have this distance. I'm standing at about 15, 18 yards from a side berm. I don't have that distance in my home. So what I'm gonna do is use smaller targets. So press out, click, 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 click. And moving my eyes along the way. And all of the things that we talk about when we do transitions, I've got to work on all of that in dry fire. So in dry fire, I may use this target. I've got a couple that I've printed out that are much smaller on a 8.5 by 11 sheet. So now I can draw and press out, bang, 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 or click, 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 smush, mush, whatever you want to call it. But that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to work on that recoil. Now, or managing that recoil. Now what's going to happen is ultimately you're going to see a video where I start talking about the 3 triggers that Gabe teaches in his, where we simulate some recoil. We can talk about that a little bit here, but what he does is, and this is, you don't do this a ton, but I've got an empty gun here, so I break the trigger and then I pin the trigger and reset it. And so then what I do is with that trigger pinned back is I basically just simulate recoil. So I'm going to exaggerate here, but try to get it on that white background there. So I'm going to exaggerate. So this might be the recoil that you might see, or even I might see this much rise in recoil. So then what I'm going to try to do is I pick my target out here, and as I ride that recoil up and get my dot back on, I release and let the gun go. So it's that fast. Okay, so let me do it. So that wasn't a real great one. So I'm letting it go. Oh, it's a challenge to do this. So there we go. And I'm picking a spot out there, and you can just see the gun. So now I'm managing some recoil. So I'm gonna implement that into my dry fire as I go. So hope this is being helpful. Hopefully you're enjoying this. Hopefully you're having fun with this. Potentially maybe you'll get to come to class with me, or you'll take a class sometime, whether it's a Gabe White class or another class, or God forbid you have the worst day in the world and you have to use your gun in a defensive use of force kind of situation. Knowing what you can do is better than not knowing what you can do. And testing this kind of stuff is important. I think we need to do that. I think we need to know what our math is. And if we know our math on that day, we can do a whole lot faster calculations of how can I react? What should I do? How can I go about this? For me, it's about getting better in a class today, but it's also going to be if I have that really bad day where I've got to do something that, if I have to use my gun to defend, that's the very last thing I want to do. But if I do have to do it, I want to know and be confident in my skills and abilities. So hope you're having a good time with this. I am. I'll see you next time.